Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I are back to talk about March. We're going to be talking about March. I know it's a little early, but we're going to be talking about March because I am undoubtedly marching into disaster when it comes to my reading in March. You know, I've already done a video about the train wreck that February has been when it comes to what I expected to read and what I am actually reading. Made even worse by time travel shenanigans from Roger. Now, the main problem is that now Roger, because I gave him such a hard time about how he ruined February with his time machine, that now he won't let me use the time machine because I was thinking, you know what? I've got March handled. All I'll do is read the books I want to in March as much as I can, and then at the end of March, we'll use the time machine, go back to the beginning of March, and live March over again and read more books. And that way I could read twice as much. But Roger's all, no, man, you gave me such a hard time about changing history last time that I'm not going to use the time machine anymore. You can't use it either. Thanks for nothing, Roger. So I can't use the time machine. So I can only experience March once this year. The unfairness of it all. Anyway, why does this even matter? Well, I'll get to it. Oh, first of all, we're still in February, and this has a bearing. You see, because at the start of this year, before this year even started, I said to myself, okay, no more BookTube events. I'm only going to do a couple BookTube events this year, and then I'm going to remove myself from BookTube events so that I can read what I need to read, what I want to read on my own. You know, I won't be dragged into reading all this other stuff. But, you know, here's the thing about BookTube events. Every time you try to get out, they pull you back in. So, this month, I was pulled into doing February fantasy stories against my will. So, yeah, I'm reading this anthology, the Sword and Sorcery anthology, with a gazillion, not quite a gazillion, but a lot of really great fantasy authors writing sword and sorcery stories. I'm halfway through this, and it's amazing. This book is fantastic. I'm only halfway through, and already we've had Conan from Robert E. Howard, Michael Moorcock's Elric, Carl Edward Wagner's Cain, Ramsey Campbell had an awesome story in this already. David Drake had a great story. Paul Anderson had a great story. So there's a bunch of good stuff in here. And I'm only halfway through. I mean, I'm like 3 pages into this story. What is this story I'm reading now called Soldier of an Empire Unacquainted with Defeat by Glenn Cook. Only a couple pages in. It's already fantastic. So actually, this was kind of a good thing that I started reading this anthology because it is fantastic. I don't think this will take me out of February. I think I'll probably have a couple days to play with. I'm hoping I can get back to my Edgar Rice Burroughs deep dive and read The Lad and the Lion before the month is over, but I'm not counting on it. We will see. You know, my Edgar Rice Burroughs deep dive, I was just going to read one after the other, and then, okay, I'll read one every couple books. And then last month happened, and that didn't work out the way I planned. And I'm just going to read as many of these a month as I can. Why? BookTube events, that's why. So, read-alongs, events, book clubs, all this stuff going on in BookTube. Ruining all my plans. So, one thing I have to read in March, and the first thing I'm going to read in March, is this, The Forgotten Planet, by Murray Leinster, which is the March book for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. Join us for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. I have a Discord. I'll link it down below. You can go there and talk about the book as you read it. Or if you don't want to do the Discord thing, you could just talk about it on the comments of any video of mine you want to. I don't care. But yeah, this is the March book for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. It's available in the public domain. This was published as a book, in 1954, but the copyright was never renewed, so it is in the public domain. You can get it for free on Project Gutenberg, just like you can get all of the books on Roger's Cheap Old Book Club for free. You know, download it for free. It'll cost you nothing, and it looks like a fun book because, look, they're fighting giant bugs. I mean, a planet where you fight giant bugs, what could be better than that, really? So this shouldn't take too long. This is only 175 pages. So no problem, right? No problem. Here's the thing, though. Steve Donoghue on his channel also has a book club. His Steve Tiberius Donoghue book club. And for his book club, in March, he's reading this book, Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Now, I received this book as a gift from A.J. Dunn. Very kind of A.J. A.J. Dunn sent me this book and the two other books in the trilogy. And I've been wanting to read this. And so I thought, hey, this is a good excuse to read this book in March. Wolf Hall, why not? I wanted to read it. Now, I know some booktubers don't like this book. It's gotten kind of mixed reviews, you know. Some people really like it. Some people are like, ah. I will probably like it. Here's one thing about Steve Donoghue. I don't always agree with him on books that he says are bad. But I usually agree with him when it comes to books that he says are good. When he says a book is good, usually it's good. Not so much when he says something's bad. Not always. You know, he doesn't like the first 20 issues of the Fantastic Four. So you could say everything he has to say about books is suspect. But I'm pretty sure he's right on this one. So Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. The only thing about this book is that it's not super long, but it's about 600 pages, right? Yeah, it's 600 pages. And at the rate that I'm reading books now, this will take me probably over a week to read, just because of work and life and little dogs and, you know, burying bodies that Roger brings home. All kinds of things like that get in the way. So we'll see. Wolf Hall, Hilary Mantel. I am definitely going to be reading it, though. Still, no big deal. I can just get on to some of the other things I've been wanting to do, but here's the thing. I forgot about the Historathon. So the Historathon is a booktube event where every 3 months you're reading a work of history. There's like 3-month chunks where you'll read a work of history set in a particular time period. And January, February, and March, that chunk of time is dedicated to ancient history, which is my thing. So cool, right? And I planned on joining the Historathon at some point, you know, but here we are coming into March, only 1 month left to read this book, or the book of my choice for ancient history. Well, I got to do that, right? Because there are a couple books I want to read. I will probably only have time for one of them. And here's the problem. They're both long. Another booktube event making me read a long book. So I'm up in the air about which one to read, though. I've got a couple choices. This is one of my choices. This is a book I really want to read. So this is Egypt, Greece, and Rome by Charles Friedman, which I have read before, but it wasn't this one. I read the second edition. This is the third edition. It's the third edition. So I got to read the third edition of Egypt, Greece, and Rome by Charles Friedman. The second edition, the one I read, is probably the best one-volume history of the ancient world that I've read. This has all the civilizations of the ancient Mediterranean in here, including the ancient civilizations of the Near East. And so there's a bunch of stuff in here. And there were some changes made for the third edition. It's a bigger book now. He got to put stuff that he took out, I guess, from the first edition to the second edition. Got to put that stuff back in here and add some other stuff. So I want to read it, of course. And it is what? It's almost 700 pages long. It's almost 700 pages long. So it's big. It's a big book. This is one of my choices. The other thing I want to read is a book I'm very familiar with. In fact, it's my favorite book of all time. It's The Histories by Herodotus. Now, this is the translation by Tom Holland. I've only read the first book of this translation because I just read it to get a taste of the translation itself. I wanted to see how the translation was. Because this got a lot of mixed reviews. A lot of people weren't fond of Tom Holland's translation. They felt it was too modern. But it also got some good reviews as well. Judging from the book that I read, book 1, it does sound a lot like Tom Holland if you've read his other books. And this isn't Spider-Man. This isn't Spider-Man. It's a different Tom Holland. Anyway, if you've read his books before, you know how he sounds. You know his narrative voice. And it does have that feel to it. But it also reads like Herodotus. And it says everything that Herodotus was saying, just in, a Tom Holland version. And it actually read pretty good to me. There were some moments that were a little odd, I remember. But I didn't read the whole thing. I just, like I said, just tested out the translation. And so I want to give this a try. And usually I will read Herodotus or Thucydides or Xenophon every year. At least I did before BookTube happened. But I would regularly revisit the ancient historians. And I haven't done that in a while. I did read Herodotus the year before last, but it was not this version. So, yeah, it's up between these two. And this is a tough choice. Either way, this is a long book too. Again, almost 700 pages. That doesn't leave me much time for other things. You think it might, but there are also other things going on in March. Of course, I'm also going to be reading a bunch of comic books. I have a bunch of EC comic books I want to read that I didn't bring in here. But I did a video on EC Comics. You should watch it. It's awesome. Anyway, I'm going to be reading a bunch of EC Comics in March too, to prepare for some videos I want to do about EC Comics. Also, the Astounding Science Fiction project's going to be going on in March, so I have to read this March issue of Astounding. I still haven't read February's yet. I'm planning on doing that this weekend. But at some point, I'm going to have to read the March issue of Astounding. Look at that beautiful cover. Who does this cover? I think that's, well, let's see. I'm showing the cover. I should see. Cover. Orban. Cover is by Orban. How come you guys never give the full name on the cover artists in Astounding? Campbell. Oh well. J. Scott Phillips will know who it is. So this is the magnificent cover, and it is beautiful. That's a beautiful cover for March for Astounding Science Fiction. Really looking forward to reading it. And for once, Dianetics is not advertised on the back. It's Saran plastic seat covers. Make old cars look new. I wonder if I could still order those. I don't know. So that's no problem, but this leaves a couple other projects up in the air, right? Am I going to have time to read Lieutenant Hornblower? I was supposed to be reading these every month, and I haven't even read this for February like I was supposed to. What about the Sacketts? The Sacketts are left behind. I want to read these too. I'm behind on my Hornblower and my Sacketts, but I'll get to them. Maybe in April I will catch up. Maybe I'll catch up in April. Don't believe him, says Stephen King. Stephen King says no. Mike said he was going to read every book by Stephen King, but it's been months since he's read a Stephen King book. He's always leaving us behind for new and more exciting BookTube events. What about me, says Stephen King. Don't believe him, Hornblower and Sackets. Sorry, Stephen King, but you're just no Edgar Rice Burroughs. I'll get back to Stephen King. I've been saying that a while now. I will, at some point, when there's time. And here's the other thing. I'm way behind in my National Geographic history magazines. Maybe it's dopey, but I'd like to read National Geographic History magazine. It's one of my favorite magazines, and I'm like way behind. I'm way behind. So, there's other things I have to read. Oh well. It's going to be a disaster. March will be. This is book 29 in my 500 book challenge if you're keeping score. I just threw that in there for no reason. Sometimes I'm random. Okay, I guess that's all I have to say. My somewhat jumbled TBR video for March. Are you sure you won't let me use the time machine? Because I could really use it. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time.